Right, good. Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome back to another Facebook Live yoga class. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're having a lovely week. And today we are going to be having a look at hips. So this is going to be a hip class, but we're going to be focusing on some different movements. So in yoga, we work a bunch of hip opening postures. So we work external rotations, so anything that takes the hip outward, so usually movements where the knee falls out to the side, quite a lot of those in yoga. And today we're also going to be looking at internal rotations, bunch of those in yoga as well, postures where the thighs roll inwards, they squeeze together and the hip comes whoosh like that. So it's kind of like a hip mobility class, I suppose, more than anything. It should be quite interesting. Some people really gravitate towards the external rotations and other people prefer the internal rotations. Usually one movement's a little bit easier. I would say the internal rotations we do in yoga are a lot less explored. We tend to do fewer of them, but they're really important. We need the hips to be able to move both ways so that they can stay healthy. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. So you may want a yoga strap. One push strap right at the beginning. If your hips are super tight, that's going to be really handy. Definitely, if you have a yoga block, keep that nearby as well. Or a pillow or something that can elevate your hips. We're going to do a bunch, keep saying bunch a lot today. We're going to do a bunch of seated postures, and if the hips are a little bit tighter, sitting on the floor can be quite uncomfortable. And if that is you, then all you need to do is lift the butt up a little bit higher so we don't compress at the hips so much and they can fall down a little bit more easily. All right, that's what we're going to do. If you have any knee problems, you're going to want to be mindful of your knees as we move through the class. If the hips are tight, some of these postures, the effort travels downwards into that joint there, and obviously it's a hinge joint. You just want the legs to be going up and back. You don't really want to be twisting, but there's quite a lot of movement in the knees actually, so be mindful. And if you have any other issues, injuries, you do need to check with a doctor before doing this, or you can send me a message and just check in with me. So yes, rambly introduction, but we are going to be looking at external and internal rotations of the hips today. That's our theme. I'm trying to get away from, I'm trying to pronounce my THs more instead of just using an F. So, theme. That's what we're doing. So if you want to come down onto your backs, we're going to start lying. We're actually just doing loads and loads of seated postures today. So, camera's a bit lower. Yeah. All good. Let's start lying to begin with. So if you want to come flat on your backs, bring the soles of the feet together, let the knees fall out sideways, and then you can just rest the hands on the inner thighs, maybe on the belly. You can place the hands either side of the body, palms up, whatever feels comfortable to you. And if this isn't comfortable, having the knees and the legs in this position, you can straighten the legs, that's okay. But if you're straightening the legs, just let the outside of the feet naturally drop down to the floor. So this isn't an effort. We're not forcing the outsides of the feet down, but just letting them flop very naturally without force. So you're still getting the same kind of external rotation in the hips as if you had your feet together. And still, if having the legs straight isn't comfortable, if you've got lower back problems, just bend your knees and have the feet on the floor, a bit more supported. Effectively, you're just finding a lying position that you can be still in, something that you can hold for a few minutes so we can just settle in. So we're bringing the attention into the room, trying to tune out any distractions, and there are a lot of them when you practice at home, a lot of stuff going on. But to the best of your ability throughout this whole class, we're going to focus on the sensations in the body, focus on the breath, and pay special attention to our hips. Areas that get notoriously tight, especially if you have a desk job and you spend a lot of time sitting down. So start to slow the breath down, inhales and exhales equal in length. The exhales are always a little bit quicker, so just be mindful of that. Slow rhythm, it should also be sustainable. So at no point do you ever want to feel like you're running out of breath. I've been saying this a lot recently, just because sometimes especially in the beginning when you first start practicing yoga and you hear slow the breath down, people kind of think it's like a breathing competition, how long you can hold your breath. The slower the better. And while we do want to slow it down, we just want it to be comfortable. Everyone breathes at a different pace, just like everyone moves at a different pace. One of the most important things really is to try and breathe through the nose. It's hay fever season, which makes that a little bit challenging. But trying to breathe through the nose if possible. And then before you begin, just taking the attention around the body. So checking in, seeing how you feel. Be mindful of knees, like I said. The hips are tight, sometimes the knees can take the brunt of the effort. We're going to be working quite a few forward folds today, so you want to be mindful of lower back. And if you do have the soles of the feet together and you're letting the knees fall out sideways, we're not forcing the knees to the floor. At no point in any of these postures do we ever want to force the knees down. There's no point. That movement will come as the hips open. Feeling that lovely passive stretch into the hips, across the groin, across the pelvis. So this is an external rotation in the hips. So hold it here just for a few more moments. Settling in. I'm experimenting with a new position for my light. It's a little bit bright, isn't it? So just move that back a little bit. Okay, fabulous. And then on your next inhale, just very slowly bring the knees back together. And then we'll all take a cat stretch here. So just extend the legs down the mat, arms overhead, and make yourself as long as you possibly can. So a full body stretch, fingertips all the way to toes. And then exhale, hug your knees into your chest, rock from side to side. And today, for the purpose of this class, take hold of the knees and make separate circles with the knees. So working around that hip socket. Sometimes it can feel a little bit crunchy, so if that's you, it's okay, as long as there's no pain. Maybe making circles in opposite directions. And we've also got the added benefit of releasing tension in the lower back. Okay, wonderful. And then bring both feet to the floor. So we're going to start with a hip opener that I come back to time and time again, really effective and very supported. So we're going to leave the left foot on the floor and we're just going to cross the right foot over the left thigh. Now this in itself is a hip opener, just gently drawing the right knee back. You may start to feel some sensation, top of the right leg. You can stay here, or if you want to deepen the posture, on your next inhale, pick your left foot up off the floor, take the hands around the back of the left thigh. At this point, if your shoulders feel really tight, if your arms feel really strong, and if the back of the head's lifting up off the floor, you're going to want to use a strap around the back of the left thigh instead. So you want the upper body to be relaxed, a little bit of effort in the arms to draw the left thigh in towards the tummy, but nothing overly strong. As well as this, you want the base of the spine to stay down, so you're feeling that lovely isolated stretch in your right glute, right hip. And also keep both feet active, so toes gently pull back. It's going to help protect the knees. And then the chin draws in ever so slightly towards the chest, so the back of the neck is nice and long. So always trying to find length through the spine, even from these lying positions. Breath steady. Just waking up the hip gently to begin with. And this is an intense posture as it is. You're going to feel that big stretch in your right glute. Always being mindful of the knees as well. So we never want to sort of get complacent in these hip openers. Even quite gentle postures like this, have the ability to hurt your knees. So if you are feeling any discomfort in the right knee, just relax the posture a little bit. Take the left foot a little bit closer towards the floor. But just hold it for a few more moments. Now if that right knee is okay, you can gently draw the right knee down the mat as you ease the left thigh back. If your right elbow is pressed against the inner right thigh, you can also push the knee down the mat. The act of squaring that right shin off draws a deeper stretch into the hip. Okay, wonderful, and then just release. So keep the legs where they are, keep the right foot crossed over the left thigh, but just bring the left foot down to the floor. We're going to take this into a little twist. So from here, you're going to cross your right knee over the left, so the knees are stacked on top of one another. Take your arms out wide, palms down if you have the room. Move your bum a few inches over towards the right to give you more room. Big inhale, then as you exhale, you're just going to let the legs very lazily fall over towards the left. And once you're in the twist, turn your head and look over your right shoulder. So now we're starting to work an internal rotation of the hip. So we've gone from external to internal here, with the thighs crossing over one another, and we're going to come back to this movement a bit later. Legs are pretty lazy. Little bit of effort to keep the legs crossed, but we're not squeezing the thighs together, we're not gripping the legs. The only thing to be mindful of is that right shoulder. You want to keep that right shoulder planted. So if there's a gap underneath the right shoulder, a couple of things you can do. You can make the right arm a little bit stronger by pressing down through the palm, fingers spread, or you can bring the legs a little bit higher up towards center, either way. And then hopefully feeling quite a nice stretch in your lower back. You may feel this right glute, top of the right leg. And then inhale, legs back to center, uncross and square the hips up. And we're just going to do exactly the same thing the other side. So right foot on the floor, right knee bent to begin with, then just crossing the left foot over the right thigh. Again, you can stay here. If this is enough of a hip stretch, absolutely fine. If you're staying here, just have the hands either side of the body, palms down, and gently draw the left knee back to start to open up into the left hip. Now if you want a deeper stretch, you're going to pick the right foot up off the mat, hands or strap around the back of the right thigh. And then remembering all your action points. So we want the shoulders down, chest broad, chin in so the neck is long. And then keeping the base of the spine rooted, really important so we don't lose the isolated stretch in the left glute, left hip area. So you're going to notice, unless, some people might not, but 99% of people are going to notice that one side feels a lot different than the other. So this side might be looser, tighter, it's just the way we are. And part of yoga is about, finding balance. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, balancing out left and right, balancing out energetically. Oh, here I go. And talk about energy again. And just keep the feet active, so keep the toes pulling back to protect the knees. And as long as that left knee is okay, you do have the option of gently drawing left knee down the mat as you ease the right thigh back. Or you can press the left elbow in a left thigh, create some resistance there. And the act of squaring that left shin up draws a deeper stretch into the left hip. Nice, slow, steady breaths through the nose. This is a really good posture if you get sciatica as well. So stretching the piriformis, which I believe is located quite close to the sciatic nerve. And if the piriformis is tight, it can spasm and it can trigger that nerve and it triggers the pain down your leg. That's my understanding of it anyway. Probably more complex than that. But this is a good posture for that, I've heard through the grapevine. Okay, wonderful, and then exhale, release. Keep the legs crossed. We're going to take it into that twist. So once the right foot's down, you're just going to scooch the left knee over the right knee. Move your butt over towards the left a few inches. Arms wide, palms down. Now we're working that internal rotation of the hip. Big inhale, then exhale, very lazily let the legs fall over towards the right. And this time, you're turning and looking over your left shoulder roots. So if the left shoulder lifts, what it means is that, again, it's all about keeping the stretch where it's supposed to be. If the left shoulder lifts, it just means the body's flopping and you're losing the stretch. So keep it down. Also got a nice little stretch into the neck as well. As well as lower back, left glute, left hip. Okay, and then inhale, legs back to centre, uncross, square your hips up, give your bent knees a shake. We'll just take another cat stretch, so point the legs down the mat, arms overhead, just make yourself as long as you possibly can. And then exhale, hugging the knees into the chest, rocking from side to side. And again, if it's comfortable, let's make the separate circles with the knees. So holding onto the knees and making separate rotations to work around the hip. Alright, and then take both feet to the floor. So we're just going to have a play now, a play with the external and internal rotation, the movements in the hip. But first we just need to stretch out the hamstring a little bit. So you can either leave your left knee bent with the foot on the floor, or you can straighten the left leg down the mat, doesn't matter. If you are straightening the left leg down the mat though, just make sure the toes are facing the ceiling, the toes are gently working back, and see if you can ground down through the left calf. And if you're keeping the left knee bent, just make sure the left foot's resting on the floor. You're not pressing down into it and lifting the base of the spine. So from here, hands or strap around the back of the right thigh, and then you're just going to inhale, extend the right leg up towards the ceiling. My right leg did not want to straighten then. So we're just going to prep the body before having a look at this movement. Obviously working into the back of the right leg, hamstring, calf, working the right toes back towards the body as well. It's going to help draw a deeper stretch into the calf. With every exhale, maybe seeing if the right toes become a little bit higher up towards the face. It's not that important today. We're not really working with the hamstrings all that much. And then chest broad, shoulders relaxed, chin tucked in. So it's more important, in all these kind of hamstring stretches that we do from lying, I always say it's more important the leg is straight than dead vertical. So if you need to lower the leg in order to straighten it, absolutely do that. You start, you don't want to, you can have a little bend in the knee, but you don't want to overly bend the knee just to try and get the leg straight. Doesn't matter. So lowering it if you need to. Few more moments here. Keep working those right toes back. Make sure the left toes are facing the ceiling if the left leg's straight. And then exhale, just release. Right leg comes to the floor, then give your legs a little shake. And we'll do exactly the same thing the other side. So right leg either straight or bent. Remembering the things we've spoken about, your action points there. Then hands or strap around the back of the left thigh. And as you inhale, left leg comes up. Remembering, more important, the leg is straight than dead vertical, so don't worry about using a strap or a prop if you need to, that's absolutely fine. And then working the left toes back as much as possible and feeling that deep stretch, calf, hamstring. Keeping the shoulders relaxed, back of the head always stays down in these postures, so we don't want to crunch up into the neck. And just like our hips, there's going to probably be a little bit of difference between the sides, so one hamstring may feel a lot tighter than the other. Just paying attention and noticing, not judging. Maybe working the toes a little bit higher up towards the face if that feels appropriate. And also a little bit of leg shake. A little bit of leg shake's normal as well, so don't worry about that if you've got a bit of an Elvis leg going on, that's fine. All right, and then exhale, just release. Fab. Give your legs a little shake. So now we're gonna work this this rotation. What we are going to do is exactly the same. We're going to extend our leg up towards the ceiling. Now, if you need to use the hands or the strap around the back of the leg, absolutely do that. Or you can just release the hands and place the hands either side of the body. And we're going to try and rotate the leg from the hip, internally and externally. So when we do this, the movement's not coming from the ankle. Sometimes, to begin with, people think it comes from the ankle, but imagine the leg is just one immovable thing. So the rotation is going to come from the whole leg moving in the hip rather than the ankle moving. So let's give this a go. So you're going to keep your left leg extended down the mat straight, or you can bend the knee, not a problem, whatever you prefer. And then just raise the right leg up. And if you do need a bit of extra support, take the hands or the strap around the right thigh. Otherwise, release the hands and place the hands either side of the body. So quite hard to keep your leg up in the air like this. Use the hands if you need to, because we're not really too bothered about, it's not like a hip flexor strengthening class, but there is a bit of strength in this. Okay, so my legs feel so tight. if you feel like this is hard work, I'm right there with you today. Right, so shoulders relax, jaw relax, say it mostly for myself. And let's see if we can work this rotation. So remember, not from the ankle, from the leg. So we're going to start with an external rotation in the hip. What that means is your toes are going to come out, your heel's going to come in on the inhale. So inhale, toes out, heel in, moving from the hip, not moving from the ankle. And then exhale, center the leg. And then inhale, toes in, heels out, internal rotation. So the hip is rolling in. And then exhale, back to center. Okay, external rotation, heel in, toes out. Beautiful. And then inhale, back to center, that's it. Exhale, toes in, heel out, external rotation. And then inhale, back to center. A few more. Exhale, toes out, heels in. It's very tricky. Inhale, back to center, and then exhale, toes in, heels out, internal rotation. And then inhale, back to center once more. Exhale, toes out, heel in, moving from the leg. Inhale, back to center, and then exhale, toes in, heel out, internal rotation. And then inhale, back to center, and then just release the leg, give the legs a shake. So hopefully you felt the strength in that. It looks like it should be easy, it sounds like it should be easy, but in reality it's very difficult to move the leg in the hip like that. And you may find one side's a bit easier. So for example, for me, I find internal rotations easier than external rotations on my right leg, and then it's vice versa on the other side. So just interesting little things to be aware of. Definitely feel the strength around the top of the leg. We're going to try the other side now. So you can leave the right leg straight, or you can have the right knee bent, foot on the floor, and then we're just going to lift the left leg up towards vertical. Don't worry if it's not dead vertical. And then you have the option of taking the hands around the back of the thigh to help you out. Otherwise, releasing the hands either side of the body and just staying here. Okay, so we're going to work the external rotation first. So take an inhale here, and then as you exhale, toes out, heel in. So we're moving from the hip, not the ankle. And then inhale, back to center, and then exhale, heel out, toes in, internal rotation. And then inhale, back to center, exhale, toes out, heel in. Inhale, center, then exhale, toes in, heel out. Inhale, center. 2 more times. Exhale, toes out, heels in. Feel that strength from the top of the legs. It's crazy. Inhale, center, and then exhale, heel out, toes in, internal rotation. Inhale back to center once more. Exhale, toes out, heel in, external rotation. Inhale, center, and then exhale, heel out, toes in. And then inhale back to center, and then just release the leg down. Give your legs a little shake, and we're going to take a cat stretch here. So point the toes down the mat, arms overhead, make yourself as long as you can. Feel in that lovely stretch, lower back, tops of the legs. And then hugging the knees into the chest, rocking from side to side, and making some circles. All right, and whenever you're ready, you're going to pop yourself up to seated. So, a lot harder than it looks. It's slightly easier from a seated position. We're going to play around with some seated postures now. So external, hip rolls out, internal, hip rolls in. And for people that do a lot of movement-based stuff, this might be quite obvious, but you know, if you're new to yoga, if you're new to movement and you're new to all the terminology, it can be really confusing when someone says this is an external rotation of the hip. You know, not everyone knows what that means, so I kind of just want to that last exercise is a very good little thing to do to show people what you mean when you're saying it. All right, so coming into seated. So we're going to work through a couple of seated postures. Some of them you find in Ashtanga, the style of yoga I practice, and others are a little bit more generic outside of that. But we're going to come into a posture called Dandasana now. So take your legs straight out in front of you. Think about the internal rotation of the hips. So while this isn't like a very big movement, it's quite a subtle movement, but we want the hips to be rolling in ever so slightly. So the legs are together and the thighs are rolling in. There's no gap between the legs. The toes are gently working back. If possible, see if you can spread your toes as well. And then place your hands either side of your hips. Very tempting to lean back like this. And if that's where you are, that is okay. But what we want to see if we can do is move forward on the sit bones, draw the tummy in and extend through the spine. So it's like you're imagining you're sitting up against a wall. So pulling the lower ribs in as well. So try not to stick your rib cage out. So ribs in, forward on the sit bones, extending through the spine, and then just take your hands either side of the hip, so not too far forward, not too far back, right by the hips. Draw your shoulders back and down, and then tuck your chin in towards your chest. So keep thinking about what we want the legs to be doing. We want the thighs to be rolling inwards. Should feel very strong at the top of the legs. Breath steady. Fingers face forward and the elbows spinning. Another deceptive posture, one that looks like it should be easy, but in fact, in reality, is very, very difficult. A very good posture for strengthening those hip flexors, the core. A few more moments. Keep the thighs rolling in towards one another. Keep the legs rolling inwards. Keep the legs together. And then exhale, just release the tension of the posture. Wonderful. So we're going to take Dandasana into a forward fold now. So all these seated postures that we're going to have a look at, or most of them, start from Dandasana. Starts from this lovely lifted position. So come back to that position. We're going to work a couple of forward folds just to work into the hamstrings a little bit. So from Dandasana, legs straight, extending through the spine, chin tucks in, shoulders back, elbows spinning. From here, we are going to inhale, raise the arms up. So find as much height as you can, lift the head. And then as you exhale, lead with the chest as you fold forward. See if you can take hold of your big toes, first two fingers and thumbs. Keep the legs together, keep the thighs rolling in towards one another. So in order to take the toes, if you need to bend the knees, absolutely fine, bend the knees, not a problem. But wherever you are, you inhale, straighten the arms, you look up, chest lifts, and then exhale, fold. So coming into the forward fold itself this time. Elbows out sideways, neck relaxed, And then over time, it's like we're trying to draw the chest towards the shins. I mean, maybe some people's chests go on their shins. I don't think that's possible. But that's energetically where we're moving. So rather than thinking of just a downward motion, think of forward first. So very much a forward first motion here. Okay, a few more breaths. Keep those legs rolling in towards one another. So no gap between the legs. And then inhale, look up, straighten the arms. Fantastic. We're going to do that once more. So you can take hold of the toes again if that's comfortable, or this time you can take the tops of the feet and the thumbs underneath the toes to gently work the toes back. Or if you have the room, you're more than welcome to bind your wrist behind your foot. Either way, you inhale, straighten the arms, chests lift. And then exhale, think about forward first, then down as you pull the chest towards the shins, let the head relax, elbows out sideways. And then holding it here for a few deep breaths. Keep the legs rolling inward. Okay, doing a really good job. And then inhale, look forward. And then exhale, release. And then in between these seated postures, just to kind of keep the body a little bit more mobile, we're going to come onto the back, so we're going to hug the knees into the chest, and we're going to make the same hip rotations we've been working. So separate circles with the knees if possible, rocking out the lower back. Okay, fab, and then as you inhale, you're going to pop up into seated, and now we're going to have a look at a posture called Janu Shirshasana. I can never say it. A. This is I know what the word I'm looking for is. This is ubiquitous hip opener. So you find this in all styles of yoga, and it's a really wonderful external rotation of the hip. So what we're going to do is we are going to start from Dandasana. All these seated postures start from Dandasana, so sitting up nice and tall, never losing that length through the spine. And we are going to take the right foot, left leg's going to stay straight, we're going to take the right foot up and place it on the inner left thigh. So just notice that as I do this, I'm not shifting the hip. So sometimes what tends to happen is this. So rather than staying in Dandasana and just taking the foot back, which means the hips stay very parallel facing forward, which is lovely and what we want, a lot of people, through no fault of their own, start to shuffle. Start to shuffle and move about, and the hips sort of spin out of sync. So make sure as you're moving into this, from Dandasana, without moving the hips stay facing forward, just take your right foot, place it top of the left thigh. As high up as you can. If you need to take it a bit lower, that's absolutely fine. And notice what's happening. It's an external rotation of the right hip. So the right knee is just falling out as far as it wants to fall. Now if that right knee is quite high, it's an indication the hip's a little bit tight. That's okay. You can always put a block underneath it if you're worried about that right knee. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how low it falls. That comes over time. We just don't want to be feeling any discomfort in the right knee. So from here, always keep the extended leg active. So toes are working back. And then we're going to fold over this left leg. Now, as we fold, we're trying to line the chest up with the left shin. Imagine that as you fold, I've got my hand in your right hip crease. So that hip keeps rolling back as you extend forward. So the right bum cheek stays glued to the floor at all times. So there's a real sort of length happening, especially through the right side of the body. So imagine I've got my right hand in your right hip crease. From here, reach forward, take hold of the left shin, maybe bind the wrist behind the left foot, take hold of the left foot wherever you can reach. And just like the forward fold we done earlier, you inhale, lift, lead with the chest, lining the chest in, and then exhale, fold. Now, keep that hip rolling down thing in your head. So as we lead with the chest and fold forward, we're rolling the right hip down towards the mat. A little bit tricky to feel at first, but eventually we want to feel some sensation right at the top of the right leg here. Okay, so head to knee pose, that kind of gives you an idea of the direction you want to be going in. Elbows level, shoulders draw back towards the waist, hold it here for a few deep breaths. So this is a hip opener. There's a lot going on, but it is a hip opener first and foremost, working into that right hip. Okay, and then inhale, look forward, and then just come back up to seated, but keep the legs where they are. So we're going to take this external rotation into an internal rotation. So from here, we're going to take the right foot over the left leg, and see if we can place it to the outside edge of the left hip. Now you can do some shuffling if you need to, so maybe shuffle your butt about. What we're trying to do is get the right knee on top of the left knee. So this is a yin posture, half cow pose, I think. Don't ask me why. But this is a position we wanna work up in. So we got the right foot was an external rotation, we've picked it up, we've placed the right knee on top of the left knee, so the right foot's to the outside of the left hip. And now we're working on rolling the right thigh in. So this can feel a little bit strange to begin with. Feel free to shuffle, and if there's a big gap between the right knee and the left knee, it's just an indication the hip's a little bit tight, maybe not used to this movement, so don't worry about it too much. Just don't want to feel any pain. If you feel any pain in the knee, just come out the posture. Alright, so staying here is absolutely fine. You might want to just sit up tall. You will definitely, hopefully, be feeling something in the right hip especially. Okay, so this is a good place to stay, especially if it's feeling a little bit new. Otherwise, fold. Now if you're going to come into the fold, please be mindful, because this is I was going to swear then, this is a huge hamstring stretch for the left leg. So if you're going to give the fold a go, inhale, lift the arms up, then very mindfully exhale, start to fold forward. Again, lead with the chest, taking anywhere up the leg, maybe taking the foot, maybe binding, laying the weight of the body over the legs. You're going to feel it. One of the reasons that this is a bigger hamstring stretch is because we cannot, because of the way the legs are positioned, bend the left knee, so it forces the left leg to be straight. Wherever you are, whether you're staying upright or whether you folded, just take a minute, check in, see how you feel. Is the breath steady? Is the body able to be still? So that's something I look for as a teacher. If someone, and I do all the time, if someone's fidgeting a lot in a posture, it means they're trying to avoid some sort of pain usually. And while we want postures to feel, sensational, sometimes they may feel a little bit intense, we don't want to feel pain. Always being able to sit with whatever sensations come up. That's a good indication that you're at the right spot. If you keep fidgeting, if something's very painful, and if you keep trying to move away from that feeling, maybe best to pull back a little bit. So just a few more moments here. Wherever you are is perfect. And then inhale, come up. And then just uncross. So uncrossing the legs now and giving your legs a little shake. Okay, so now it's time to work the exact same little sequence with the right leg straight, and we're going to be working into the left hip. So keep the right leg straight. So starting Dandasana, remember at first we don't want to shuffle around. This is just moving the foot back. We want the hips to stay facing forward. So just taking the sole of the left foot now and placing it right at the top of the inner right thigh. Now if you cannot take it right up, that's okay, just move the foot down a little bit. Eventually we're looking to get this knee out at a 90-degree angle, and eventually as the hips open up, the knee will travel a little bit more comfortably towards the floor, but all happens with time, with patience, so don't worry too much. Okay? Something that can also help protect that knee a little bit is to flex the toes back on the floor, so keeping the foot that's pressing on the inner thigh active. Lining the chest up with the right shin, and imagine I've got my hand in your left hip crease as you fold forward. So a lot of length through the left side of the body here especially. So from here, you're gonna inhale. You can lift up if you need a bit more room, or just hold on to the shin, hold on to the foot. Wherever you can get a reach. Inhale, look forward, and then exhale, fold. So leading with the chest, drawing the chest down, keeping the elbows level, shoulders drawing back towards the waist, and then keeping that external rotation in the left hip, so left bum cheek stays rooted. Eventually, we're looking to feel some sort of sensation in the top of the left leg. To begin with, it can all feel a bit, you know, if the hamstrings are tight, it can all feel hamstrings, it can all feel lower back with the forward fold. But over time, focusing on that sensation in the left hip. This is a hip opener. Sometimes pressing the left heel a bit stronger into the right thigh can help. Noticing if one side feels a little bit different. And then inhale up. And then just come back up to seated. And now we're going to take this external rotation into the internal rotation. Can feel a little bit stranger this side. So now we're going to cross the right foot, left leg. We're going to cross the left foot over the right leg and place the left foot on the outside of the right hip. At this point, definitely feel free to shuffle around a little bit. You might want to hold onto the left foot and just move your butt about to see if you can keep those legs crossed. If the left foot doesn't go to the edge of the right hip, don't worry, just bring it forward a little bit. We're just seeing if we can get the knees stacked as much as possible. So left knee right on top of the right. If there's a big gap between the legs, that's okay. Just a sign that the left hip's a little bit tight today. You can, I went a little bit cockney there, didn't I? You can stay upright. If that's you, I recommend staying upright and just feeling that sensation top of the left hip. Otherwise, sitting up nice and tall, just, you know, breathe in. And then you have the option, if you feel up to it, to fold forward, just being aware that this is a huge hamstring stretch for the right leg. You can inhale, lift the arms up, exhale, propel the chest forward. Always lead with the chest as you come down. Lay the weight of the body over the legs, careful of the knee. Take the foot, maybe rest the hands either side of the leg, let the head relax. I feel like internal rotations always feel a little bit stranger just because I feel like we do less of them. There are, you know, there's quite a few in Ashtanga in the primary series, I suppose, like Triang. Posture we're going to have a look at in a minute is an internal rotation, but there are more external rotations. So the inward rolling of the hip can feel a little bit more unusual. Okay, wonderful. And then inhale, walk yourself back up, uncross, untangle, give your legs a shake, and then come down onto the floor, hug your knees into the chest, and then make those hip rotations, so separate circles with the knees, just rocking out the hips. Oh, our hips are going to be so happy with us. It's good, it's important. It's important to work both of these movements. Healthy, happy hips. Okay, and then when you're ready, you're going to pop yourself up into seated. Now, I just said a posture, Triang. I'm not going to lie, I always forget the full name of it. It's Triang Mukha Ikapada or Triang Ika Mukha Pada. I think it was the first one. But we can just call it Triang. And it's a posture that comes in Ashtanga, and it's an internal rotation of the hip. Now we're going to have a go at this folding forward, and then we're going to have a go at a similar posture, half hero pose, where we fold backwards. Definitely be careful of your knees in this one. So this is a posture where you might benefit from having your block handy, or anything like a fat book, thesaurus. Look at me with my THs. Thesaurus. I used to call it a thesaurus a lot when I was a kid. It's a thesaurus. Still can't say it. So Triang. Basically the point is to have maybe a block or a book or something that can elevate the hips. So starting from Dandasana, so that position where your legs are straight, the spine's extended, everything's sort of nice and upright. What we are going to do is we're going to roll over to the left. We're going to take the top of our right foot and place it on the outside of the right hip. At this point, you may want to move your right calf out the way to give you more room so that you can eventually sit the right bum cheek back down. To begin with, you might find to separate the knees slightly, to have the right knee and the left knee with a little gap in between, but over time, let's see if we can glue the knees together. Rolling the right hip inward, squeezing the thighs together, and then pressing down through the top of the right foot. Just place the hands either side of the body to begin with and see how you get on with this. So as well as knees sometimes playing up in this posture, if the rotation of the hip feels dodgy. Also, if the quads are tight, it can sometimes start to pull into the knees. Another thing that can happen is sometimes top of the foot hurts, so you might want to place a blanket or a jumper underneath that to pad it out. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is get both bum cheeks on the floor. You might find that there is a big gap, especially underneath your right butt cheek in this case. So this is where, or if your knee hurts, if your ankle's really playing up, you might want to sit on a block. Okay, just so that you can get a feel for the posture. Take some of the pressure out of the right leg. If you are sitting on a block, just sit up nice and tall and keep the effort in the core, keep the effort through the spine, and then take a couple of breaths, and then maybe you can see about removing the block. If you don't need the block and you're happy here, you can stay here, keeping the knees as far together as possible, keep that right hip rolling inwards, or you can fold forward. Now, what's going to happen, if you're going to fold forward, the body's going to want to go whoosh and just flop over to the left. Imagine, it's another imagine I've got the hand in your right hip crease, just like before, and I am pulling this hip down as you fold forward. So only fold forward as far as you can without the right bum cheek lifting, without the body rolling over to the right. So from this position, if you are going to give the fold a go, and you don't have to, take anywhere up the leg, maybe foot bind, hands either side of the leg today, doesn't matter. You're going to inhale, lift, and then exhale, fold. Now try and maintain the balance of the posture without letting the body roll over to the left. Keep drawing the right hip down, but keep the right hip rolling in towards the left thigh. Keep pressing down through the top of the foot, top of the right foot, and keep the left toes pulling back, elbows level, shoulders rolling back. A real tricky posture. A few more moments. Okay, and then inhale, look up, and then exhale, release, and just bring that right foot back out and give your legs a shake. And we're going to do exactly the same thing the other side. So right leg out, move over to the right, take the top of the left foot to the outer left hip, roll the calf out the way, and then see if you can plonk that left butt cheek down. So you can even do a little self-adjustment here. You can place your hand in your left hip crease and sort of roll that hip down. And at the same time, you want the hip to be rolling inwards towards the right thigh. So hips are rolling in, left bum cheek stays down, pressing down through the top of the left foot, and then keep the knees glued together if possible. You might want to sit on your block, take a couple of breaths here. You might want to stay upright and just get a feel for what's happening in the hips. Or you can fold forward. If you're folding forward anywhere up the leg or hands to the side of the leg today, doesn't matter. Inhale, lift, and exhale, fold. But only fold as far forward. Oh no, I just had a what is it? A rat in my throat, is that it? Bug in my throat? Only fold forward as far as you can until you feel the left hip lift. So you want the left hip to stay down. That's what I mean. Okay. Pressing down through the top of the right foot, elbows level, shoulders back, breath steady. You're doing a really good job. Avoid leaning over to the right. So see if you can keep the integrity of the posture, balance of the posture. And then inhale, look forward, exhale, release. Extend the legs and give your legs a shake. Can't talk today. Happens sometimes, you know. Also, it's just the way it is with these live videos. I'll never forget the time I spat coffee out on, on a live video in front of everybody. That was fun. Okay, so just give your legs a little shake. So what we're going to do now is a very similar movement, but instead of folding forward, we're going to see if we can take the body back. And this is half reclined hero. Again, you need to be mindful of exactly like all the same areas that we were just talking about, tops of the feet, knees. So I'm going to quickly show you what it looks like. Exactly the same process. Plop over to one side. We're going to take the foot in exactly the same position, rolling the calf out the way. Again, we do want to keep the knees as close together as possible, rolling the hip inwards, that internal rotation of the right hip. But for this one, it can be quite difficult, so don't worry if the knees have to separate slightly. You take your hands behind you, your fingers face forward. You hang out here. Also, this is just a lovely front body opener as well. Fantastic way to stretch into the quad and the hip flexor. as well as working the hip. So you hang out here, I'll just quickly show you, and then maybe you come down onto your elbows. We want to see if we can keep that right knee drawing down, and then if this feels okay, maybe you lie down and you take your arms over your head so that the arms are on the floor. All right, well, we'll see what happens. Again, it's a big ask of the knee especially. So let's give this a go. Your block is going to be handy again. So keep the left leg straight out in front of you. Maybe roll over to the left. Take the top of the right foot on the outside of the right hip. Roll the calf out the way and plonk that butt cheek down. Trying to get the knees together as much as possible. So it's exactly the same movement we just worked, okay? Except we're not going to fold forward. Again, if this feels uncomfortable, you might want to sit on a block. If you're sitting on the block, don't try the lean back, but just stay here, work this position, and then after a few breaths, see if you can remove the block. But don't worry if that's not going to happen today, it's not a problem. All right, so if you're comfortable here, you're going to place the hands behind you, fingers face forward, and then just lean back and take a moment here. So no point rushing this posture. See how you feel. Still seeing if we can roll the right hip inwards, still seeing if we can keep the knees as close together as possible. You might want to stay here. If you feel like you can go a little bit further today, then you just bend the elbows. You can come down onto your forearms. See how you feel. And before you go the whole way, just check in, keeping the left leg grounded, keeping the toes pulling back, keeping the right knee sucking in towards the left knee. Staying here, or maybe coming all the way down, arms overhead, palms face up, and it's a tricky little posture. The right knee really wants to lift up, but see if you can keep it pulling down towards the floor. Keep that right hip rolling inward, and then if it hurts your knees, absolutely come out. What we want to get is the sensation in the top of the right leg for sure, the inward rotation of the right hip. Just taking a few more moments here. Okay, fab. And then if you've come down, come out slowly. Just going to come back onto your elbows and then walk your way back up onto straight arms, and then just straighten the right leg and give the legs a little shake. Wonderful. Let's do the same thing the other side. So keep the right leg out in front of you, and this time roll over to the right, take the top of the left foot to the outer left hip. Roll the calf out the way and sink the butt back down. Remember, you can sit on a block, you can stay here and just work this. Just feel what's happening in the hips. You want the knees to be drawing together, you want the left thigh to be rolling inwards. If you did want to give the fold back a go, you're going to place your hands behind you, fingers face forward, and see how that feels. Keeping the left knee drawing down towards the mat at all times. Keeping the right toes pulling back. And if you're happy here, you go ahead, you do what you want to do. You can come down onto the elbows, take a few breaths. You can come all the way down as long as the knees don't start hurting. Arms overhead, palms face up. Keep the left thigh drawing in, keep the left knee pulling down. It's a big posture, this one. it's quite a big posture. Doesn't look like much, but yeah, it's quite a big posture. So keep the breath steady and just bear in mind one side probably feels a bit different. So, you know, don't be upset if it doesn't happen this side, it happened the other side, or vice versa. Taking a few moments, playing with this sensation, the rolling inward of the hip. Okay, then when you're ready, you can just make your way back up. So prop yourself back up onto your elbows, coming forward, straightening the leg, and then giving the legs a little shake. Wonderful. So come down onto your backs, hug your knees into the chest, make those hip circles again, so separate circles with the knees. Okay, and then inhale, just pop yourselves back up. So the last thing I want to do is have a look at a posture called cow face. This is like, we've had a look at half cow face, so this is very, very, very similar. Big old internal rotation of the hips, huge hip opener. Let's see what happens. So legs straight out in front. So what we are going to do is we're going to come into half cow face again, which is the posture where we're going to leave the left leg straight to begin with. Going to cross the right foot over the left leg and place the right foot eventually to the outside of the left hip. You can wiggle around. We're trying to get the right knee on top of the left knee. If you need to bring the right foot forward a bit, don't worry about it, just do that. Now if this is already quite a big ask of the hips, you absolutely stay here and just feel this position out. Otherwise, to come into full cow face, you need to take your left foot and you need to bring it to the outside of the right hip. Now from here, hold onto the feet, wiggle about, and then see if you can sit your butt back down. So we have the right knee on top of the left knee. Okay? So this is the position of the legs. Like eventually there's lots of crazy things people do. They bring their feet further back, they sit on their heels. But for today, all we're trying to do is sit in this position. It's already a very weird position. Sometimes it's called shoelace pose in other styles of yoga. You can hold onto the feet if you need to. If you feel like the feet keep pinging, you can hold onto the feet and stay here. Again, if this isn't happening today, then just take that left foot and just straighten it like we done in the half position. Okay, so sit up nice and tall. One of my favourites, this one. I say that, but I never practice it, so maybe it's not one of my favourites. Okay, breath steady. Already feeling a big stretch, especially around the right glutes or right hip area. There is a shoulder opening element to this. We aren't going to do that today. What we are going to do is we're just going to see maybe, if appropriate for your body, we can fold forward and place the hands on the floor in front of us. So either sitting here, you can just sit here, is absolutely fine. If you want to give the fold forward a go, you feel like the feet keep pinging away, maybe keep hold of the feet and just lay the body forward. Otherwise, inhale, arms up, and then exhale, fold forward. All right, take it easy. It's a really big old hip opener, this one. So just placing the hands on the floor in front of you for today, and then just letting the body lay down over the legs. Breath steady. Okay, and then inhale, plop yourself back up, wonderful, and then just untangle the legs. All right, give the legs a little shake. So we're going to do exactly the same thing, last posture, the other side. So to begin with, right leg straight out in front of you, we're going to take the left foot to the outside edge of the right hip. So now the left knee stacks on top of the right. Feel free to wiggle around, maybe hold on to the left foot to keep the legs in position. Stay in here if your hips feel a little bit tight today. But if you want to give the full posture a go, you're going to take your right foot and place it to the outside edge of the left hip. Hold on to the feet, shuffle about a little bit and see if you can glue that left butt cheek down. Big old internal rotation of the hips. Big old hip opening posture. You might already, well, you should already be feeling it. If there's a big gap between the knees, maybe stay here for today and just get a sense for how this feels. If this really isn't happening, just straighten the right leg again and work the half position. You can keep hold of the feet if you feel like they keep pinging forward. Otherwise, inhale, arms up, and then exhale, you're going to fold over the body, placing your hands in front of you, and then just let your head relax. Feeling this massive, massive opening, well, right and left hip really. But especially in the, I'd say, left hip this side. Okay, just a few more moments here. Working whichever variation you're working with. It takes a while, this one. Okay, and then inhale up to seated and then untangle your legs. Give your legs a little shake and then just come down onto the floor. Hug your knees into your chest, making some hip rotations or just hugging the knees in and holding it there. It's taking a moment. And then we are just going to come straight into Shavasana. We haven't done a lot of like jumping about today and massively sweaty work, but we've done some really difficult movements with the hips. So we're just going to let the body unwind for a second. Legs straight down the mat, letting the feet fall out sideways or knees bent. I really hope that you feel a little bit more open in the hips after all of that. Arms either side of the body, palms up. So you might notice that the legs, they can fall out a little bit more naturally. You're more than welcome to bring the soles of the feet together, let the knees fall out sideways if you want. Whether you're with straight legs, knees bent, you know, soles of the feet together, just taking your attention to the hip area. Seeing how you feel, noticing what sensations are going on there, and maybe just sort of reflecting on what movements you found challenging, what movements maybe you found a little bit less challenging, maybe they were all hard, whether the external rotations or the internal rotations posed more of a challenge for you. And this is all information we can use moving forward, information we can use to make our practice safer, more intelligent. Letting the breath come back to its natural rhythm. And even though we didn't really sort of like get the heart rate up all that much, we're still manipulating the breath. It's really important to let the breath settle, whether you do a faster or slower paced class. Okay, wonderful. You're more than welcome to stay here. Definitely encourage you maybe staying here for a couple more minutes, but for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna just say goodbye. So if you want to take a cat stretch, hug your knees in and then make your way out of Shavasana in your own time, however you want, whenever you're ready, perfect. And yeah, I'll see you next week, hopefully. Hope you enjoyed the class. And definitely keep working those internal rotations of the hips. Like I said, for most people, they tend to be a bit more challenging. Maybe not for you, but yeah, we definitely work less of them. So yeah, keep working them, keep your hips healthy, and I'll see you next time.